Hi, everybody. Dr. Boyce Clark, founder of Lubricity Labs. Happy Thursday, and thanks for tuning in for our science talk. Really appreciate that you guys tune in every Thursday as we talk about hair science, cosmetic chemistry, and just try to learn new things about why our hair does certain things. Today, we want to talk about our favorite topic over here at Lubricity Labs, frizzy hair. Frizz, the other F word. So what we're going to talk about today is that frizz is a symptom. Frizz is not an illness. It is a symptom that is caused by damage. So when you have damage to your hair, the result is going to be frizz. We scientists like to have fancy definitions for things. So the definition in the context of cosmetic chemistry and hair for damage is the chemical or physical breakdown of the structural components of the hair resulting in damage. So what could cause these kinds of things? Well, you'd be surprised, right? Because first at the top of the list is shampooing. We think shampooing is a good thing that we do to our hair. It is. It's removing dirt. It's removing excess oil. It's also can be damaging to your hair if you do it aggressively. When your hair is in its wet state, it is much more vulnerable to structural and physical damage than it is in its dry state. But it's also the chemical damage. So if you were to be using low quality shampoos that can damage the chemistry, we will also see damage. You guys may remember I've used this for the last couple of talks, but we've got the hair strand here, the outer is the cuticle layer, then we've got the structural one here, the cortex. This is where the keratin proteins are parallel, adding all the strength. This is my favorite part right here, this interface between the cuticle and the cortex. It's called the CMC, or the cell membrane complex. It's really cool. This is where the different keratins are binding. This is where the structural and really most of the chemistry is happening here. So our products are designed to interact really a lot at this component. We're going to talk more about this in future talks when we are rolling out some additional lines that actually tweak the chemistry of that layer. Very, very cool stuff. So shampooing, what else can do it? Swimming pool water with chlorine in it. So a lot of people, and I guess maybe just being a chemist is why it always surprises me when people say, well, I don't use chlorine in my pool, it's a saltwater pool. Well, the salt, sodium chloride, is what's being split apart into the sodium and the chloride. Then that little electrical component in your pump system turns the chloride into chlorine. So you're just using salt as the source of the chlorine in your pool is actually what's happening. So it's the pool is a chlorine pool. It's just you're not buying chlorine at the store and putting it in. You're turning the chlorine from salt into it. Now, there are other pools that don't use chlorine. Those are usually called ion pools. They'll use things like silver and copper. Very cool stuff. But pool water, because if you go into the pool with dry hair, your hair is absorbing that moisture and it's pulling that chlorine in with it. You don't want to do this. Sunlight, we talked about this when we talked about why gray hairs are so wiry. UV radiation damages the hair. We find that it damages the structural components of it. The thing that I think is maybe most surprising to you all is grooming, why grooming can damage your hair. And this is, again, brushing your hair too aggressively. I think I have on here pillows and sleeping. So when you're asleep at night and maybe your hair is damp, you moving your head while you're sleeping on a cotton pillowcase is abrading that cuticle layer. In fact, they make silk pillowcases for this, and the studies show that the amount of abrasion is dramatically reduced. Very cool stuff, right? Straighteners, again, pulling tension on your hair and applying heat, very damaging. Aggressive drying. This one was new to me until a few months ago when we partnered with some salon professionals, and they were telling me, the act of aggressively towel drying your hair after you have shampooed it is can damage that. I just looked at a study a couple of days ago where some hair, tresses of hair, control and experimental, were dipped in distilled water, and then they were taken out and brushed, I don't know, 30 or 40 times, dipped again, brushed, dipped, and repeated. And after about 30 of these cycles, we would look at the two beakers side by side, and the one that had been brushed aggressively was cloudy like milk, and that was all the cells of the cuticle layer that had been ripped off of it and were now floating in the water. So it's just kind of a visual example of how aggressive brushing and aggressive towel drying can really rip that cuticle right off. Also chemical treatments. This is coloring, this is permanent waving, this is perming, things like this. All of these things contribute and cause damage, and then damage results in frizz. So again, the frizz is happening for a couple of reasons. We talk about this cuticle layer that looks like shingles on a roof. If they're flat and smooth, then that's a really good thing because light's bouncing off of them. And we're seeing full color in your hair. They're sliding effortlessly back and forth by each other, so that's not generating a lot of static electricity to make your hair kind of have the flyaways that we do in the cooler months. Also, when the cuticle's flat, moisture is less likely to get into it. So the cuticle is there to protect us. The natural oil and sebum that we make in our scalp that coats the hair is again designed to repel moisture. So if we can keep moisture out and keep that cuticle healthy and flat lying, then we prevented the damage and therefore prevented the frizz from happening. I have a couple of cool pictures. Because we do these live, I'm not able to throw them up on the screen, so I printed them and I want to show you. This is from the same individual. This is a scanning electron micrograph. So it's a scanning electron microscope is the coolest thing, and I'm obsessed with them. And we have access to one in our laboratory here, and I'm very excited that we're going to be taking some hair samples and looking at them in the SEM and then treating them with the various lubricity products and then looking at them to look at the comparisons. Really cool stuff, but it looks at it on a highly micro scale, so it's not like a light microscope where light has to go through it. This one you're bouncing electrons off of it. But here's some pictures. So this on this side, this is from the same person. This is new growth hair, so they clipped this right out of her near her scalp. You can see the cuticle layer. We talk about it being shingles on the roof. So again, they're overlapping, they're protected, the core of the hair is protected, the cortex is protected. Well, this is hair on the same individual 1 year later, and this individual did perform aggressive grooming techniques. You can see how, in this case, the shingle is, we've got what's called chipping, where it's being removed, we've got lift, all kinds of things. So look at the damage in that between the virgin hair and 1 year old hair. Think that's bad? How about this one? This is a really cool study. They took some hair and aggressively brushed it while it was wet for 1 hour a day for 30 days. This is what the cuticle looks like. So please don't brush your hair aggressively. Please, when you get out of the shower, take a towel and blot the moisture out. You don't want to, aggressively go back and forth. You're lifting the cuticle when you do this. Also, when you first get in the shower, you should fully saturate your hair. So you want to get your hair fully wet before you apply shampoo and start, massaging it around. Because if you have, say, the ends are wet and the roots are dry, the point where the dry and the wet meet is a point where breakage can happen because it's much more vulnerable at the wet point and the dry has more strength, and now you're moving it back and forth, and that's the moment, that's the point of failure. So some of the other things that can be done to prevent these types of things, the silk pillowcases are really cool. I know a lot of you have written to us that you have them. So using those while you sleep, or potentially binding your hair up in a bun while you sleep so it's not being moved back and forth on the pillow. More gentle products, so non-aggressive shampoos. Our products are designed to be very gentle so that you're not doing the chemical damage to the CMC level. Also, we have some salon partners who've posted on our Facebook and our webpage, and you can find that. I think we'll put a link in here today. It is basically tools to use, so different blow dryers or flat irons or different tools to use to style your hair that are not going to result in as much damage. We talked about wide tooth combs. Don't brush your hair with a brush. Use a wide tooth comb because the hair is going to gently go between those wide teeth and you're going to have tremendously less damage to the hair. And if we can reduce the damage or prevent the damage, we can stop the frizz. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And if you have any questions, post them to the page and we'll get right back to you. I had a tremendous turnout last week with our flash sale and our buy one get one last month. So we have been literally around the clock making products. So everything's going great over here and we are churning out product, but please continue to give us input as to, how much you love it, or if you have an issue, let us know. Talk to our customer love team, customerlove@lubricitylabs.com. We want to work with this and continue to evolve these products and make them better and better. So you guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot.